Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Filling in the Gaps. As always, my name is Rich from the heartland state of Ohio, joined by my good friend Cameron from the biggest and baddest state of Texas. The two of us each week take a random theme and a random scenario and mash it together, and over 45 minutes brainstorm what those two things would look like mixed together. We are not an actual play podcast, but we do hope that through our brainstorming, you and your friends can actually play. We know sometimes coming up with a session idea week after week can be difficult. We're here to give you that spark of inspiration or to let you look behind the curtain of what it looks like when you have bad ideas and then you turn it into something doable. So Cameron, how's life been for you lately? Any announcements? Anything cool to call out?
We had one extra review on iTunes, but we didn't have a worded review. I don't have anything to read. But thank you for the 5 stars, whoever that was.
Thank you very much.
The random magical person. In addition to that, 2 of our Discorders, Sir Laugh-A-Lot and Avalon, both had an opportunity to run or are going to be running the Brush with the Wall Walker module.
What?
And we've been getting some feedback on that, and it was really cool. So thank you both for attempting or looking into or having fun or whatever, just enjoying it. That's really badass. So beyond that, though, I mean, no crazy announcements this week. We're just we're getting right to it, Rich. That's all I gotta say.
Getting right to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds good to me.
Well, I got one question for you for this week.
Okay. As always, Cam, anything for you.
Really?
Anything.
Kill Jimmy Tucker. He was a jerk to me last week, and I need you to
I'm on my way.
take him off the map. No, here's my other question. Shall we roll?
Let's do it. That sounded really weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Need to
that was
figure out my
almost sensual
enunciation
more
for
so than
that.
anything
I'm
else.
so sorry, everyone. Okay, hopefully the music is playing. We're gonna move right past that really awkward moment that just occurred.
Yeah, you held like a brief second to make me go, wait a minute, hold on, are we in love right now?
What? All right. Well, what me and Cam are actually going to be doing now is the two of us are going to be rolling our D20s to determine what this episode is going to be all about. Now, today I am rolling for the scenarios, and Cam, you are rolling for the themes.
Yes, I am rolling for the themes.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and roll and see what we get.
Let's do this thing. Dude. In 17 weeks, I will hit 20, but this is now 1 up from last week, which will be a 3. So,
really,
yeah.
So I feel like I'm counting down. I rolled an 18.
I think we're going to meet in the middle. That's what it is, right there.
We're gonna meet in the middle.
Okay, Let me check out what these guys are.
All right, and while you find out what those are, I'm going to tell you guys about our good friends over at Libris Arcana Dice. They've been true to us for a long time now, offering us a great deal on random dice sent to your door every month. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you head on over to LibrisArcanaDice.com. You can order a monthly subscription or a 3-month subscription, and they will send those dice directly to your door. And if you use our promo code FITG, you'll get 25% off your first order, and we hope you guys enjoy those. If you get some dice and you do enjoy, take a pic and tweet at us on the Twitter with all the like the kids are doing nowadays with their technology and whatnot. I'm still hip and relevant, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
You're there, man.
Right.
You're there. I wouldn't worry about a thing. Oh man, you are going to be very interested in this week's episode.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, are you ready for this? So,
yes.
We have the theme of nature preserved for mythical monsters.
Okay.
And and our scenario is stealing the Declaration of Independence. Those are brought to us by LaGravy. Thank you, Adam. And by Big Ben 20. Thanks, Ben. So,
all right.
Yeah.
These two seem very different.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here's some things. Stealing the Declaration of Independence, that's a major a major part of American history.
Correct.
It's our symbol of, kind of what brought us together as a country, the standards that we set as what made our country, one unified thing.
Yes.
A nature preserve for mythical monsters. That's like almost like a zoo or like a Jurassic Park type enclosure where you're trying to keep something safe. Can we link these two things together? That's my question.
I think we can.
Okay.
So,
any ideas on your end?
Yes.
Okay.
The Declaration of Independence is more representation of statutes and rules for a governing body and country in and of itself.
You put that so well.
Yeah. So, the reason why I say that is because it doesn't have to be the Declaration of Independence in particular, due to the fact that I don't know necessarily if there is the United States of America in D&D. I don't know if that's even canonical, but nonetheless, there are countries that would maybe be easily represented by that, or you can even make up your own country or something of that nature, right? So we have ourselves a governmental document. Okay, cool. We already got our first of the episode. I'm excited for this. What you got?
Okay, so this is my idea.
Uh-huh.
What if it's very much a Bane from Batman idea, from like the new movie, which I know wasn't like the most popular one, but here's my idea. You have maybe some very anti-civilization druids or rangers, somebody who goes into a major city and brings with them this nature preserve. Maybe they go in, they steal this, they kind of steal or put down their foothold, their fort around this major Declaration of Independence type thing to make a statement that man in their civilization, man in their trying to, expand and expand and create a safe spot for humanoids has been destroying nature. Mm-hmm. So this druid's trying to flip the script.
Got it.
And it said, you know what, I'm going to take this thing that's important to you and I'm going to now create nature expanding out from here.
It's the ground zero, where essentially they plant their flag, and then from there's like this massive expanse of nature. And so like the cityscape is covered in, it's like The Last of Us, where the cities are covered in greenery and all that kind of stuff. Even though there's current buildings, they're all just pretty much overrun with vegetation and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm a big fan of that. Big time.
See, there's also a I know that there's I showed you the SCP videos a while ago, right?
Yes. Super creepy.
Okay, for those of you guys who aren't familiar, sometimes I watch these videos on YouTube, or I guess it's not videos. It's technically started with a forum called Secure, Conceal, Protect. It's a short story thing, like almost like a creepypasta. One of the SCPs that this company, this organization is trying to keep under wraps is a cassette tape that that when played, it's said to hold the song of Genesis on it, or the sound of Genesis. So when you press play in this room, it starts just creating life at an incredible pace. Like bacteria will turn into fungi, which will turn into single-celled organisms, which will then die and explode as new life bursts out of them. Like if you were to stand near this room, like you would explode because microbes and life inside of you would burst out and like kind of just continue to flop over each other over and over and over and over again until eventually you get humanoid beings. Which would look vastly different than we look. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of something like that, just life kind of just flopping over, like as this this ground zero thing occurs. It just kind
like
of
a tidal wave of life.
Exactly, of nature specifically.
I like that. I know this sounds messed up. Well, it doesn't sound messed up. It actually sounds perfect. But if there was ever an episode where we could actually do some fungal stuff and some myconoid stuff, this would be the one. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. Just throwing that out there. Kind of a big fan, Love the mushroom guys.
Let's do it.
But
let's do it.
No, let's not do it. Because we already had one episode with myconids, and
I feel like it's been a while.
Has it been a while?
Maybe.
I don't know.
If nothing else, I think they could be in here as like husks of humanoids that were killed in this initial.
Think about it this way:
nature bomb.
So you talked about a druid, right?
Yeah.
There is a circle for druids called the Circle of Spores. It's in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And it's essentially like a spore-based, fungal-based. I think it might actually be Unearthed Arcana. Now that I say that out loud,
that's fine.
Regardless, it would be really cool to me, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, as this thing is like, you will no longer take over the world, and or you will no longer.
The world will take over you.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like this fungal network being able to speak throughout the city, and so there's like always eyes on the players, or always, because like if any myconid or myconid ever takes damage, any myconid within 240 feet of it also is aware of it taking damage.
Yes. Yep.
And so there's just some cool aspects to it. That could be one component. Maybe there's like a circle of druids, not the specific circle that they choose from, but like multiple different druids that represent different varying levels of nature itself. And then they all come together and like jam their staffs down, and it spreads out in 4 equal segments around the area itself. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far in one direction.
No, I like that. But I think it has to be. So, were you thinking like literally within like 5 feet of each other, slamming their staffs down?
Oh yeah, like back to back to back to back.
See, I think we do it wider. That way, you have some more like objectiveness to this thing. They might not be 5 like feet apart. They might be 5 miles apart, on different corners of the city. And they create this literal huge ring. And it calls down in the center of it this, like, maybe not a meteor, but essentially they focus their powers inward, and the center of the city is where this thing just starts like growing out from there. And then maybe they're not on the outskirts of the city, but they kind of create like a ring that's a little bit farther apart. So you have to venture to each druid and defeat them there.
Ooh.
Or talk them down.
Yeah, I like that. Then it also creates this weird Venn diagram scenario where you're having to have like crossover situations with different types of nature in general, or something like that. I do love the idea that they're going in to essentially destabilize civilization because of the fact that civilization has in fact destabilized them. So I think that's a good entry level. This is the why of why this individual, these druids are making this decision itself.
Yeah. They're very much like the Ents. They're like a Greybeard from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Like, they weren't going to fight at all until they saw Isengard's factories and them burning down the trees. And this is essentially that.
Right. Because they're kind of right, which is always a good thing to have in a bad guy. So let's talk about what should we do here? Maybe figure out. Do you want to go with 4 druids?
4 is a good amount. We can always come up with more if we want. But I think first, let's try to think of some like environments in the city.
Yeah,
because that sounds really fun.
Oh, in
to
the
me.
city?
Yeah, like what happens when these druids kind of terraform the city? I guess, for lack of a better word.
Well, let's say one of the parts of the city is like very. It's been taken over by like a lot of rainforest and stuff like that, and so some buildings have collapsed, and there's vines that are like holding up essentially buildings that are almost falling over, but they're completely inhabited by different creatures.
What even if they haven't fallen over? Like some buildings have even been pulled up into the air as these trees kind of twisted and like grew underneath them and just pulled their structures up.
I like that
Not
a lot.
Perfectly, but like.
So these are
almost like the trees
are
are the base. Yeah. Yes. Like I'm thinking like redwood forest trees, but like a rainforest.
Oh, I love it.
So like the base of the rainforest is still like you might not even have that much cement or like pavement. But in the air you see like this canopy of building rubble that these trees have quickly grown around.
Yeah. They're like bird's nest in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And then they've also got like vines that are, because I would imagine that this is probably something that has happened for a while, and now there's specific pathways for the inhabitants of that area that have caused it to, they've been able to traverse it a lot easier.
I was even thinking this could be something that happened like recently, and it just happened so quick.
Oh, it's just fast. It was just a fast thing. Ooh, that would be really disruptive.
Like a nature nuke.
A nature nuke. I like that.
Yeah.
Nature nuke. What's up, bro? We're freaking efficient. We don't really care. We're like all about keeping the world safe, man.
But here's a creature that could be cool for the rainforest world is grungs. You familiar with grungs?
Yes, I love those little guys.
Yeah, grungs are essentially they're like goblins, but imagine if goblins were very vibrant rainforest frogs. Yeah, tree frogs.
Yeah.
But they're still very vicious. They look really cute, but they're lawful evil, and they have poisonous skin.
And you know what happens when you got poisonous skin? I've always been a big fan of like when video games really do stark juxtapositions between different environments.
Yeah.
And I like to see this as like 4 quadrants, circular quadrants of sorts. Yeah. And one of the quadrants I see. Go ahead. Sorry. You're going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah. Is like a desert. And the reason I say that is because that in and of itself is still nature in a way, right? And this could be like the druid of the sand, and this could be there could be like massive tunnels and massive cave systems throughout. Essentially, there's a collapsed city within, because of the fact that there's like a giant maybe purple worm that's been riding around. Because we're going straight up Tremors in this scenario.
Oh yeah.
And essentially, like, the entire city has fallen beneath this area down there as well. And I don't know.
So we're saying desert, jungle. Do we do like an Arctic, or is that too much? Is that too similar to desert?
Yeah, I feel like that is like
on the same plane is forest too similar to jungle.
Yeah, so let's go.
But here's the thing, though, is that the animals. It's not just nature. Like we're saying, there's wildlife.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, because that's where the preserves for the mythical monsters come from.
Yes. So that will change the environment too. Like, is a forest different than a jungle? Yes. They're both based on trees and wildlife and foliage, but it's the types that change.
Yes. 100%. Because, like, sloths and grungs could be very prominent in the rainforest area, whereas in the desert area, you could have, like, maybe a basilisk or purple worms. In the Arctic area, you could have yetis and what's another winter style thing? I don't know. I can't think of another winter monster for some reason.
Well, if we're going with those 4 quadrants for now, let's focus it on one and just shoot out some ideas.
Okay, cool. Let's go with rainforest then first.
Okay, so we've got grungs. Now, here's the thing about grungs that I think to run them, I think the funnest way you can run them is we have to remember that they jump. Same thing with bullywugs. They jump, and they jump dang far. So they have an ability called standing leap, which means the grung's long jump is up to 25 feet, and its high jump is up to 15 feet, with or without a running start.
So some verticality to the environment creates
exactly.
It's naturally, it makes sense for them to be there.
Exactly, and here's the thing too: their armor class is 13. But if you have them jump 25 feet away and hide behind a huge tree branch or hide in a building that the players can't get to easily, all of a sudden now they have half cover, if not full quarters cover, and their AC is at least 15, 16, maybe even higher.
Yeah.
That's when they start to get annoying.
Super annoying. Another a beast I ran today, the Displacer Beast, would fit right in the jungle.
Ooh, yes. I love that.
Yeah, I just like the idea of like a nightcrawler beast essentially just going like. Is that the best like poof sound? Bamf.
Oh, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
No, I like the poofed better. Now, here's the thing, too. Since this is a nature nuke, I like the idea of there being some survivors still that you have to, like, protect and save.
Yes.
So maybe you come across a group and you hear, like, I like the idea of, like, you walking through and just looking up at all these buildings that are above you, and all of a sudden you hear, like, a voice say, like, what are you doing? Like, what? You're out in the open. Like, they're going to see you. And, like, or, like, call over to you, like, hey, quick, get out of their sight. And then, like, you kind of hear, like, the churr, like, the croak of the grungs. And you're like, oh, shoot, are there, like, guys watching us right now?
Yeah.
And then maybe after that, like, quick combat, or after you scare the grungs away, like, or maybe the grungs just leave. And the players are like, oh, we did it, yay. And the survivors are like, no, it's back. They only run when it comes here, when it's near. And then you have this displacer beast that, you know, rocks their world.
I'm a big fan of that as
well. Or if you need there's a Gorillion, which I'm finding in a Volo's guide, I think. Mm-hmm. Which is a 4-armed gorilla. That could be fun. There you go.
Yeah.
Challenge rating 4. Have that big boy smashing through the trees.
Ooh, what about
a pack of those big boys smashing
Zombie,
through the trees?
He made up the baboons.
The baboons. Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
This is perfect for that.
This is no one we'll have to share it. We'll have to get Combi's permission to share this, but yeah, he made some baboons that are essentially, they're called baboons, and they are like demolition experts, but monkeys. It's pretty crazy. I actually love them, so that'd be something else that would be really great.
Also, in a rainforest, there's dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's always a thing. Have some go King Kong.
Ooh. Oh
and
yeah,
have,
like straight up
monkeys.
King Kong.
Yeah, some monkeys and some dinosaurs fighting it out.
Some mephits. What are they called again?
Memphits. So like some of those elementals. Here's another thing too. There's a creature called a cave fisher, which is technically an underdark creature. Mm-hmm. But what they do is they just essentially spit out a long string of incredibly sticky, like, webbing, and then they'll catch something in it and just pull it up and eat it.
Yeah,
I like the idea of that.
Yeah,
but with, like, you could even flavor it as spiders.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we go nuts with the name and nothing else. You could keep everything else the same, and you're good to go from that perspective. I love that. So with the I have a question before we move on to our next environment.
Yes.
The Declaration of Independence.
Yes.
Is it them that is stealing it, or is it that the players themselves that are going to steal the Declaration of Independence? And if they are, what's the purpose of getting it? Why is it valuable?
Okay, you're going back to the beginning.
I felt like there was a little bit of a hole there as to why someone would be stealing that. You know what I mean?
What if... So the Declaration of Independence, it's less that it is actually the Declaration of Independence and more that it's something of that level of importance to the city. Is that what we're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what if... Go ahead.
Well, what I was thinking is, like, okay, if it is super important to the city, does it have any intrinsic value to help alleviate the situation that's currently plaguing the city? Because otherwise, what's the purpose of going to get it besides some, like, moralistic purpose?
What if it's some kind of artifact? Okay, rainforest.
I'm heading in that same direction as you. I think that there is a magical property to this.
Yes. To
this document that, when spoken by maybe a sworn-in individual from the city or something like that, that it's capable of cleansing the city of any, like, it was sealed long ago with maybe some spoken words that once it receives its spoken word, it then can essentially send out like a cleansing spell that will remove any kind of tarnish or any blight on the land itself.
Well, I'm even thinking too, like, what if it's like what if this artifact, whatever it is, somehow harnessed a blessing, or harnessed a favor or something over these four realms. Like it was like, hey, may our city be prosperous and safe in the forest. May they be warm in the winter. Let them be cool in the desert. Let them be like something like that. So it's given them the ability to push out farther than they should, and the druids come and essentially turn that in on itself, and like almost like flip it over, and release the full force of the magic. And in doing so, the players now have to go and find that artifact and rebind the magic. Maybe? Question mark.
I like that. Yeah, I actually think that's the best way of going. It's stealing the artifact, which has been like encased in this singular tomb that's sort of representative of the four different types of nature. So you have like one doorway, it's completely covered in vines, and another is completely covered in snow or whatever.
What if I'm thinking about this actually being like a piece of paper now. What if it was something where maybe centuries ago, like so long ago, a druid with good intention was like, hey, I'm gonna form a city, a tribe of people who can live in harmony with nature. But writing into the code of the city, it says, if we ever burn the jungles, if we ever rob the forest, if we ever melt the Arctic, or if we ever, harm the desert, something like that, some kind of like call to action, like an accountability action. So if our city ever stops living in harmony with nature, then like I'm going to call back the forces of nature to kind of take our city back out. And maybe that's where like the city has grown so much and changed so much that these druids, who are maybe even these ancient old beings who even know this original chieftain, they come back to say like, hey, we're here because this city for centuries now, or for years now, has been breaking its code, and we're here to return the city to nature.
I like that a lot. The reason I think the reason why that works so well is that it gives the players like some choice as to what is the right direction to take this, because you could have this like corrupted society that is very, very willy-nilly with their pollutants, and they don't really care about the environment. In other words, it's like a city that's lost its way. And then you have the players themselves that are having to sort of decide between the two scenarios themselves. Now, there is you could run into the issue of like the player just going, yeah, well, the forest people were right. Just let it go. Do its thing.
Well, at that point, maybe you wouldn't have some of the druids, or one of the druids, seem sympathetic. Maybe like it's the forest druid, or maybe even the desert druid, who is not necessarily like camping and just like trying to keep away from the players. Maybe he's diving in and saying like, hey, I'm going to help the survivors get out, because I'm not mad at the survivors, I'm mad at the city.
What about this? That's sort of like a split path right there. Essentially, you're going to help prevent the city from reclaiming the spoken word and essentially reestablishing themselves with the druids, or you could help the city reclaim the artifact and help grow the city back to where it was, or help replenish the things that have been taken away.
Dude, I like that too. I know we've been talking about the main story for a while, but maybe it's like, maybe the idea is a long time ago, like these druids wrote a pact with this old, maybe it's not a druid that formed the city. Maybe these druids wrote an agreement with like the person who first started the city, that he wouldn't do these things. And maybe this is that person's great ancestor, and it's just been for so long now that people don't even think about this. In the same way that we kind of feel about the Declaration of Independence, we know what it is, but there's some people who like are like, well, what exactly is it? In that same way, these druids are kind of coming back and collecting on a deal that they made a long time ago because the city's kind of gone corrupt, and you've got to figure out whether you're going to side with them or not. And maybe part of it even is like, if we are doing a straight 4-quadrant thing, maybe you have to kind of pick one of these quadrants that does go under.
What do you mean by goes under?
Maybe if you even do save the city and get all these druids to either you kill them, or you like kind of get their approval again to sign this document and say like, hey, we're good. Maybe one of them is like, you know what, I'll go ahead and remove my power so that the whole curse is lifted, but one of these quadrants has to go back to nature.
Oh, I gotcha. And so you're essentially having to make the choice as to what portion of the city is no longer going to be the city.
Exactly.
Say, if you can't, for perchance, revert them back. I think this story actually allows you, from a world building perspective, to actually create, say for example, the druids win, right? Or the druids are able to sort of overrun this city. It creates for a very unique power struggle later on as well, where you're having like these different environments sort of all counteracting with one another in very, very potent ways. But no, that's the reason why I brought that up. I just wanted to make sure that there was like a reason as to why the Declaration of Independence, or in their case, this document of nature's bounty or whatever it may be, was important, because that was a key component to this, right? Like that's part of, why we did the show in the first place. This
exactly.
is because why we have that scenario. So that seems to make the most sense to me, because now we have the ability to either help the city or help the druids. Now we can get back to the different environments and what kind of components are inside of them as well.
Yes. Now, and here's the thing too, I'm thinking more of as this is going on. Maybe this isn't even just a city, because it doesn't make sense for one city to kind of have such an impact on jungles, deserts, Arctic, and forest. But it could even be a nation or an empire.
Ooh, man, that's big time right there. Now we're dealing with some huge consequences. That's pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of that.
But yeah, let's go back into those quadrants then.
Which one do you want to do? Desert?
We've done some with jungle. Yeah, let's do desert. That could be fun.
I was thinking skeletons for some reason would be interesting.
Okay.
I just think that you could pretty much like make skeleton forms of a lot of your favorite monsters.
That's true.
And there's a lot of that. And I think that just fits really well with that. There's also we always get crap for saying this is it the Gynosphinx? Gynosphinx? I don't know how to pronounce it. Androsphinx and the Gynosphinx. You got those?
Yeah.
You got those?
I know what you mean. There's guard drakes from Volo's Guide, which are essentially kobolds are supposed to ride them, but they could just be giant lizards, essentially.
Yeah. Clay and rock golems as well.
Air elementals controlling, like, sucking up sand. I like the idea of there being
little dusty boys.
Little dusty boys. Cactuses, a cactus golem.
Oh, seriously. What's that game? Is that from Dungeon or Dragon Quest?
Oh, I think, doesn't Final Fantasy have?
Yeah, they've got some cactus, and it's just like two eyes and a mouth, and the mouth is always open. I'm a big fan. I don't know.
Rock. Hey everybody, this is Rich. My audio cut out, as it often does. I'm here to say I was saying ROC, like the giant flying bird creature. It's going to swoop down and give your players a big spook for protection. But at first, they kind of just like look up and they're like, oh, look, there's like a eagle way up there. And then it just gets like bigger and like, oh, it must be swooping down at something. And then it's like, that thing's getting really, it's been going, oh my gosh, that thing is huge.
Yeah. Gargantuan monstrosity. How big are those things?
Well, I think they are at least the size of a adult dragon, if not bigger. Yeah, they're huge.
200-foot wingspan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That actually makes me think that it'd be really cool to have a Rockras too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm liking the idea more of this being an empire.
With
because
because you could have lizard folk maybe in this this rainforest area.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these are
like the druids and their allies are coming against this city.
Mm-hmm.
Or this nation.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a big fan. Oh, well then that brings me to maybe like a coastal style biome.
That's what I was thinking too, is doing water.
Yeah. Because then you have like merfolk as your sort of druidic allies.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can start going nuts with water creatures like dragon turtles. You can have turtles. Man, I love turtles. I need to run a turtle.
There's like the shark folk too.
Yeah, shark folk.
Mm-hmm.
Were sharks. Were starfishes.
I mean, there's the kraken.
There's were seahorses.
Mm-hmm.
There's were Nemo. There's were barracudas.
Where is Nemo?
They're also there's also weracudas, the brother of the were barracudas.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. There is the were-bear acutus.
It's continuing.
Yeah, it's a bear shark that listens to 1980s alternate rock. No, you have undersea treasure chests that are mimics. That's always fun.
Ooh
yeah.
So
we'll have a little bit of fun here.
Here's one thing too. Harpies. Now, I know you're like, harpies, those are flying, but I like the idea of there being sunken ships or sunken buildings, and these harpies are just kind of flying around in the air above them.
Oh, yeah, and succubus and incubus all over that bad boy, too.
Mm-hmm. A hydra. Hydras are, there was a hydra in Greek mythology that was like an aquatic beast. So if you don't want to run a kraken, you could run a hydra.
You can also run kuatoas, which are far more dangerous than a hydra will ever be. So,
of course.
Yeah.
Much more.
Yeah.
Now, here's one thing, though. We're throwing out a bunch of creatures, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We're not throwing out a lot of moments, We're not throwing out moments, Cam.
We're not being very moments boys right now.
We're not making scenes, We're just throwing out NPCs. Anybody can do that. We gotta make sure we attach something to them, That's what the people come back for.
It gets the people going. We gotta give them what they want. Okay.
So here's this druid of the ocean,
mm-hmm.
who pulls in the tide, has it, wipe out a lower part of this empire. There's this whole trading port that's just gone. So when you and your players either teleport there or ride there or whatever, where the city was, it's just sunken and
mm-hmm.
submerged, and you see little bits and pieces of like buildings sticking up out of the water, and there's like some rubble and like wood floating. You see the harpies up in the air. You can see like maybe these like kuatoa or turtles or things like that are kind of standing on top of this rubble, or even like dragging away prisoners and stuff. What goes on in that scene? Or if you're a player, what do you go to, and let's create that moment.
Now, is this an instantaneous thing, or are we doing the long-term thing? We are doing the instantaneous city situation, right?
I think it happens instantaneously across the whole empire, and then you have to go from one place to another, and fix it, and defeat these bosses, whether that's through like your renegade points or your paragon points.
Paragon points? What is that?
Mass Effect, the blue tree or the red tree.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Where they're either like, well, screw nature, or you're like, oh, nature, no, I'm sorry.
Whether you're like, I've got red cracks on my face, or I have no cracks on my face. Gotcha.
Exactly.
I remember now. That was very on the nose for them. I think one thing that would be interesting would be in this area, maybe like, okay, my mind instantly goes to Kuatoa pirates. Now hear me out. just a bunch of really small ships of like Kuo-toas that think that they're pirates, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like rafts. And they're like, meh, meh.
Well, I'm trying to think too, is like Kuo-toa, because they worship stuff, right?
Right.
Like that's their thing, is they just kind of form this cult religion or something around something really quick.
Yeah.
So what's something in a trading city that a Kuo-toa would see and be like, that's our god. That's our god now.
I almost like the idea of it being your players. Maybe your players get into a fight with a major predator for some Kuo-toa, and and they defeat the predator, and then you hear from like coming from some partially submerged buildings, some little waters like water being pushed to the side.
It's like Toy Story. Yeah.
And they're like, wah, wah. I don't know what a Kuo-toa sounds like. I've never. Is a Kuo-toa speak a language? Right. Let me see here. Let's see. Do they speak? They speak Undercommon. Yeah. So they'd be like, I don't know what is Undercommon. I've never actually dealt with Undercommon.
Hey, dude, you're sounding good to me.
Okay, cool. So, anyways, let me get right back to it. And your player's like, what? And then they're just like, and then they go, haba, haba. And they just keep bowing to
just
your
following
players.
them around, and they're like,
And then your player tries to sail away to go deal with more stuff, with dealing with the druid. And then they look behind him, and all the Kuo-toas like just stop and then like look around as if they weren't following him. But there's like 80 Kuo-toas behind, and they're just like,
and you're like, okay, thanks a lot, bye. I like the idea of this creature that they fight being like not a kraken, but maybe like a plesiosaurus or like an old ancient like aquatic beast. Mm-hmm. That kind of instills a Jaws type vibe. Like maybe you're even like hopping from one sunken building to one piece of rubble to another, and just like you just kind of see this huge ripple under the water. Mm-hmm. Or you even like as a DM, I know you said you do this before. You pull back the camera and establish a scene, and maybe you even establish this whole like, looking from above, you see this huge shadow just shift underneath. That just instills a lot of in me as a player. I confession time, everyone. I don't like the ocean. I like the ocean if I go to it. I'm swimming. I'm okay. I know that there's sharks and other boys out there, but I figured that my chances are good of not getting bit by a toothy boy.
By not being in there?
Yeah. In video games, though, horror games do not terrify me as much as open water in a video game. In The Witcher, when you get to like the Viking area, and I was in a rowboat, and I saw that whale jump up out of the water, I had to not play that game for a week.
Really?
Because it just instilled in me so much dread.
That's crazy.
That whale thing out there in a game about monsters could like attack me and make me and give me a spook. Give me a spook.
I like that though. That's good. Because that means that's next time I run a D&D campaign, I'm going to do that to you. Any kind of one shot. I'm just going to do a water one shot. It's going to be you and Kevin Costner, and that's all it's going to be. And y'all are going to be in Waterworld together, just hanging out. Well, I do actually like the idea of like a megalodon style.
Yes.
Like just a big ass shark.
Yes.
And if you're in the water, you're at major disadvantages when it comes to damage received and all that kind of stuff. So I have no problem with that. I think that's a really great way to do it. But so right now we have with the rainforest, we have like the rescuing of the people and dealing with the grungs and the displacer beast. Maybe the displacer beast is like a legendary displacer beast. Maybe it's
some
like
gorillas too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, like you could have like some guerrilla warfare with those different monkeys. Yeah. And then in the ocean world, we have the Kuo-toas worshiping your players based off of a murder or killing of a predator of theirs, and then the megalodon, which by the way would be hilarious to deal with. See, like the Koto is acting as bait, essentially. They're chumming the water, essentially, and just getting
or even they're like, maybe that's how you introduce the Megalodon, even, is they're worshiping this Megalodon that does not accept their worship, like it's just a creature.
Right.
But they're just like, we send one out to feed the mother fish or whatever. And it's just like on a little rowboat, just like sitting there, like, meh. Meh.
And then it's just big eyes going, like, looking around just left and right, just meh, meh.
Yep. And then all of a sudden you just see this huge, like,
I love it. Okay, what about the desert then? We talked a lot about like the different things that could happen, or like the different monsters. But when you reeled us back in there, Rich, when you were the good guy and you said, you know what, I'm tired of us just listing names off for 30 seconds. And you said, let's get some pictures in our brains for the people. I agree with you. And now we need to go back and we need to update our desert world. So what's going on out there? What's the desert world looking like?
Okay, so it's almost like it's like the ocean, but with like a tidal wave of sand? Question mark.
Yeah, it's like the ocean if you didn't have any water in. So
exactly.
There's half the battle right there.
Just like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
What were you saying?
On. I was actually going to incorporate the air elementals.
Okay.
A lot. So I think that there was something to air elementals and sandstorms and getting lost, and then maybe madness, or the sandstorms using like scarabs or something like that, as a way to sort of like knock down your player. And they also have like the chance of getting lost, so it's more of an environmental area.
Yeah.
That can lead to, like, that's the boss itself, but then maybe when they get to a center point, they can eradicate that. What you got?
So you're talking about going from like one location to one location almost.
Yeah, it's very much like that episode that we did that one time. Actually,
yeah, that
we
one
had
time.
A sandstorm
that one episode that we had that one time. I'm sorry,
that one time. That one time in our episodes.
But I tried to run something like this once. Going back to the idea of this rock, this giant bird. I like the idea of...
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
but I love the idea of the environment having the sandstorm that sucks to be in, and you might wander into an ambush, or you might get attacked, or you might get lost. But is it worth it to travel during the sandstorm, or to travel without the sandstorm and the rock be able to see you?
Because my mind was actually leaning towards, like, is the rock just creating the sandstorm? But then I was like, okay. So there's like a just pick your poison scenario.
Exactly.
I like that. It's sort of like what's that movie with the mice, the field mice, and the owl? Damn it.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. Hit us up on Twitter, leave us a 5-star review, and tell us the name of that movie that Cameron's talking about.
Let's do this real quick. Do you have anything else really big for desert? I do like the idea of you kind of going from shelter to shelter in these like big buildings that are just half buried in sand. And then I think
that's good to me, is like just running from spot to spot, avoiding the sight of the bird, the rock.
Yeah. And sand centipedes.
The rock will eat you in one bite, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then having these insects under the sand. I like the idea of lizard folk too. That are out there kind of patrolling around, doing little ambush stuff. UNTs as well. Maybe they have like a slave camp you try to free people from. But let's go to another biome, because we're hitting the 50-minute mark, and we still have Arctic. Yeah, and we still have Arctic, and we still have forest. So which one of those are you more in love with?
What about swamps? Is that too much is swamp too much like rainforest and ocean?
No, I don't think so. But we did that episode on bullywogs a while ago.
Oh yeah,
we did. Swamps. Now here's the thing: we can totally go back into it because I love swamps.
Yeah, I am a big fan of swamps. But let's do. What about like lava?
A lava biome. Okay.
Is that are you against that?
I'm trying to think like if we could combine it with something. I was thinking like even like an Underdark biome.
I like that.
Or maybe there's like an earthquake, and it
we have
opens
never
up,
done
like,
an Underdark anything.
I don't know if it fits.
I guess we have, but not really.
I feel like we're trying to force it here, though. Is
I know.
my only thing.
So okay, then snow. That one feels the best to me.
Okay, so we've got the Yeti.
Yeah.
Which is actually a challenge rate 9. Dang.
Dude, when I was running the Yeti
around.
in Candyland, my snow cone Yeti, I ran him as a lawful good, and he was like a helpful NPC.
Aww.
And then I like rolled, because they got into combat with some water weird or some essentially White Walkers from Game of Thrones. Yeah. And when I rolled his attack stats, I like looked down and I was all, Jesus, this guy! Oh my God, this guy's a monster. He was all, yeah, just do some frost breath real quick, and you're dead, and you're dead too. And he was just like smashing people left and right. I was like, okay, well. Note to self, don't run a Yeti for a little while against my players, because that's not going to be fun at all. Ice Dragon. We could do an Ice Dragon itself.
Ice Dragon? Yep. I like the idea of there being some kind of... Okay, so city. Once again, it's not just nature. It's nature taking over a city. So you've got these frozen buildings. You've got hot spots where your players, to avoid getting exhaustion, they have to get to a hot spot every 30 minutes or every hour. Yeah. Or else they like get penalties to making attacks because they're kind of chilling up and getting numb. Yeah. I like the idea of this Ice Dragon. I like the idea of the Yeti.
What is maybe an avalanche of some sort?
Ooh, I love that. Like they get trapped or they get separated and they have to find each other.
Yes, in the avalanche.
Yep.
And it changes the map, or it changes the layout of where they are, and so it just becomes a lot more difficult. It's kind of like that time that we ran in our game when we got stuck underwater and the water was so brown and murky we couldn't see each other, and so we were just sort of like hoping to find one another. Yes. Using perception checks, essentially.
Yep. I like this too, depending on how close they are to the desert. Okay, this is only okay. What if like the water biome brings so much water so close to the desert biome that it evaporates, and then it pushes it over to the Arctic biome, so then you have this like freezing rain, which literally it's not like turning into snow, it's falling and hitting the ground, and as it hits the ground it's just encasing everything in ice, and that in and of itself is kind of like a challenge, because maybe you're trying to get people out of like, you're trying to protect them from this freezing rain that will like freeze them in place, or you're trying to keep from getting frozen into buildings, or you get frozen into a building and now you go from this big open overworld of like building tops that are snowed over to now you're in essentially this almost like Hoth scenario, where you're like going from like room to room and building to building as this Yeti or Wampa is essentially like chasing you down, trying to like burst in or get you in a room.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. I also like the idea of like there being like a large castle or a large place here where now, what are the 4 things? I know what minute mark are we at right now? 53. So what are the things like inside the cities that once we defeat each of the druids, or once we have like sort of whatever we've needed to do, whether it's been defeated or politically talked to or had a game of chess with, or arm wrestled, or played Super Smash Bros. 4 stocks, no items. Ooh. Something. If we did any of those things, specifically the last one, what happens after that? What benefits do you gain to then maybe attain this document or protect it?
Well, I was going to say, I think they gave their word to the emperor of this nation centuries ago, whoever the first emperor was, that like nature would bless him as long as he was like good to nature as he grew this empire. So they're coming back and they're taking their words back because the emperor took his words back in their mind. So you're essentially either through force or through agreement, through persuasion, through coercion, however, you're essentially getting these druids to give you their word back.
I gotcha. Okay.
Even if that's that you just defeat them and their powers go away.
Okay. I'm all about it. I like that. It's essentially you're just saying, "Hey, take it back, bro," and then
take it
the
back.
druid's like, "No,
no,
I'm not gonna do it." And I'm like, take it back, man. Take it back. All right, I heard what you said. No, I'm not doing it. Okay, cool. Well, I guess that's.
I mean, this is a session I could go on for like a while about. But
I know. I really feel
go...
like we just have barely scratched the surface on this one.
Exactly, and that's why I hope somebody out there is kind of like maybe thinking of how this could be something cool for your game. Because that's the thing with these ideas. Sometimes we don't get the chance to finish them out, and maybe that's where you guys out there could figure that out. Speaking of which, so awesome. What is it 333rd Monk? Want to figure out how to like connect all of our stories. Love that, by the way. Just a shout out to, we have somebody on our Discord, the 333rd Monk, wants to make like a book or an adventure that ties all of our scenarios into one overworld, which is so cool. Maybe this is taking place. Maybe this is the empire that's being assaulted, that your players kind of can travel around, or maybe this is a threat that's pushing in on the peripherals. I don't know, but I think that's so cool. I just want to give you a shout out for doing that.
Yeah, it really was. It's really awesome. Badass to hear that kind of stuff because first and foremost, you're a psychopath for taking on that many different ideas. But once I started thinking about it, I was like, well, it could, in a sense, be tied in pretty easily. There's a lot of stuff that could overlap with one another. Because a lot of the stuff is just plot hooks. Who's the big bad?
Valley Girl Wizard, Shannon.
That's Shannon. She's in our Discord. Anybody that's listening to this that's not in our Discord will have no idea what we're talking about. But Shannon, we know who you are. Mm-hmm. She's all, hey, what's up? It's me.
Hey, what's up?
Valley Girl Wizard.
You didn't want to use...
I also go by Shannon. Guess what? You want to buy some ads on MySpace? Well, come on over. And you're just
my gosh.
What are you talking about, Shannon?
This is the perfect transition to go ahead and plug our Discord.
Yeah. We do need to do our summary and our synopsis still, by the way.
That's right.
I know.
That's right.
You were trying to get out of his synopsis this week, and it ain't going to happen, Rich.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I guess it's my turn for synopsis. Give me a summary real quick as I try to whip something up. Frantically looks at notes and books.
Ugh, you don't get any time to prep. Let's see here. The elders of the city had made a promise to the druids a long, long time ago. We shall respect nature, and you shall respect our personal space. Well, guess what? That bubble done been popped. We all up in each other's space right now. We got ice druids just living next to people with the 3-story apartments. I mean, it's just a mess. And so the leaders of these druidic worlds have decided to go back on their word because, just quite frankly, the leaders of the city did that so long ago. And with that being said, they then have now reclaimed in a very rapid fashion the areas of the city that they once gave away, and they have taken on the features of each of the core druidic nature domains, if you will. So ice, snow, or ice, sand, rainforest, and beach or coastal city or something like that. And it's up to your players to either help the druids accomplish this task or prevent the druids from doing so by helping the city. Who will you do? Or who will you help? Or who will you do? Do you want to have sex with all the druids? Whatever.
I mean, if you have a bard,
yeah,
that is one way.
Go nuts, do your thing. That's what D&D's for. Have
bard walks up to the druid and says, "Man, I know all this all this water's got me feeling a little flustered." Or walks to the desert and says, "Oh, hey.
Don't make this joke. Don't make
this city is not the only hot thing around here."
Okay. Oh man, at least they weren't wet and dry jokes. Yeah.
I'm done.
Bard walks into a bar and says, "What's up? Let's have some sex." Anyways.
Okay, so synopsis time. I want to go ahead and I'm torn about the idea of you kind of hopping from building to building, from sunken structure to sunken structure, and your players are getting to this boss fight moment with the ocean druid. He's kind of like sitting almost in a meditative type stance out on the top of a building, and as he sits there, he kind of like says, ooh, I really like this, I'm gonna do this instead. So as he's sitting there, up behind him, like this wave just constantly pulls up and then crashes, and when the wave pulls up, you see this face in the wave, and the players are talking to this druid, and the druid is essentially monologuing and saying, centuries ago I gave your emperor permission to share in the bounties of the water, and your emperor has done nothing but take and pollute. So now the water's coming back for its revenge. And then out of the giant wave comes these like 6 hydra heads that spiral all over the place and send water splashing everywhere. And now you're in this fight with these hydra heads that sink underwater and then pop up and get cut off, and 2 more pop up, and you have to find a way of going under the water and attacking the body. And all the meanwhile, this druid is there kind of like casting spells that knock your players off of platforms. Really cool combat scene.
I like that. You know what that makes me think of, by the way? Who was the gladiator? Hercules.
My favorite Disney movie.
It is I mean, the music is just so impeccable.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
I mean, honestly. That was
I'm not gonna lie, there have been times where I've cried listening to the song that I can't think of right now, when he's climbing up the mountain. He's like,
I can go anywhere to feel like I belong.
Oh man, I lost my voice. Man,
was that it?
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our singing minute for the episode.
Oh man.
Okay, so you guys, you can find us on our Twitter. We are starting an
Seamless
album.
Transition.
Yeah. You can find us on Twitter at FitGDND. You can find us on Spotify, any of your podcasting apps. You can just go find us there. Just look up Filling in the Gaps. You can go find us on Reddit at Filling in the Gaps. You can find us on our Discord through links on the Reddit or the Twitter as well. If you are looking to join the Discord, just hit us up on one of those things and I'll send over an invite. We should have a constant link always going, but in case you can't find it, we'll help you out. Beyond that, I think that's it, man. Just go leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy the episode. I thought this was a fun one. What'd you think, Rich?
I thought it was a lot of fun. And guys, thanks so much for listening. And really, if there's one thing I can encourage you to do, we always appreciate 5 stars, but really do hop over on the Discord. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, I've turned from being less of a lurker to being more present. And man, it's something I look forward to when I see guys on there having conversations. We're not Filling in the Gaps isn't a huge community, but it's small and it's active and it's fun. It's just a lot of goofs and gaffs and people sharing ideas and making bots that get into our servers into, long time NPC villains for future sessions. So
Damn you, Shannon!
Damn you, Shannon! So hopefully you guys can hop over there and just say hello, share some ideas, and we'll do the same. But that's all for this episode. Like I said earlier, we're not an actual play podcast, but we brainstorm so that you can hopefully actually play with your friends. And hopefully this session has given you some kind of idea that you can use during your next game night. Until the next episode, we hope that you guys roll nothing but natural 20s and natural 1s. And we'll see you guys on the next one.